that reality is the result of something personal or not? One of the two.
Let's go with non-personal.
Thank you. Why do I have to unpack that thing much to get a simple answer out of you? It's crazy.
Well, what's a simple question to you and the idea you have in your mind, and I don't understand? I'm sorry that I'm not on your level of understanding, and I'm not in your mind exactly what you're thinking.
So the point is, your analysis of how reality came to be is going to reduce down to something that's impersonal, period, or not personal.
That's not true.
Yes, it is, because you just told me that you believe that reality is the result of something impersonal.
Well, no, you gave me two options, but you didn't actually try to understand my answer. If you ask somebody...
It's a true dichotomy. It's a true dichotomy, though. There's no third... What is the third possible option? Either the personal or not.
Where you can actually answer and try to have an understanding.
Personal.
I tell you that I think reality is based at the right place, at the right time in the universe, by a force of energy that surrounds us.
You're being argumentative now.
That's not argumentative. I'm explaining myself to you.
Is P or not P a true dichotomy?
I don't even understand P, not P. What?
P or not P. Is that a true dichotomy?
I have no idea what that even means.
Do you know what a true dichotomy is?
No, I don't.
Let me explain it to you very simply. Either all triangles are three sides, or all triangles are not three sides. One of the two.
Well, all triangles have three sides based on the way we describe them, yes.
Okay, but is that still a true statement to say that either all triangles are three sides or not?
Well, if they're not three sides, they wouldn't be called triangles, would they?
That doesn't take away my either or scenario. Either all triangles are three sides or they're not.
Okay, are you asking me a question now? Because I already answered the question.
Either you're talking in this room right now or you're not.
I am talking in this room with you right now.
Okay, so I gave you a true dichotomy. Either you're speaking in the room, or at the very least, let's put it this way. Either you've spoken in this room at some point or you haven't. True dichotomy. No, you understand?
I understand.
Okay, that's the same thing in the whole personal scenario. We have a true dichotomy. Either you believe that reality is the result of something personal or not. It's P or not P, A or not A. True dichotomy, period.
But see, the thing is, your true dichotomy, personal, non-personal, your personal is based on some creator that created with a thought of mind. Is that correct?
That is irrelevant to whether it's a true dichotomy or not.
Is that, I'm
asking you. Accept that when I stop, Jared? Now you're being argumentative.
No, I'm asking.
Now you're not listening to me. Do you accept what I said about it's either personal or it's not? Do you accept that that's a true dichotomy?
When you're talking about personal, do you...
No, answer my question. Now, okay, you started somewhat charitable. Now I think you're just being argumentative for no reason at this point.
I'm not even arguing with you. I'm asking you an honest question.
Oh my goodness.
Jared,
he started off cordial. Now he's going off the deep end. Now you're just going off the deep end at this point.
See, remember, Ton? I told you an interesting thing, and I said, well, it's really crazy how we go into rooms, and when people are trying to have a conversation, it gets overboard by Christians or atheists, and they go on their tantrums. You're going on a tantrum.
No, you're talking to just me, or mostly me right now, and I'm getting frustrated with you because you're not interacting with what I'm saying to you. You're just
I'm not saying what you want me to say. I'm not bickering with you. I'm actually...
No. Stop. If I'm explaining something very simple to you, and I'm asking you to follow through logically, do you accept the notion that true dichotomies exist? Yes or no?
Sure.
Okay, follow that through to P or not P. All we do is just replace P, which is short for proposition. We just replace P with something else. We're just plugging in the value. We're saying personal or not personal, P or not P.
Okay, it's not personal.
That's all. Okay, I just gave you a true dichotomy from the beginning, and you're literally bickering with the true dichotomy I laid out to you.
What was I bickering with that? Can you tell me what I was bickering about?
Because you were trying to avoid. You were trying to avoid
What was I saying to avoid it?
You were trying to avoid the analysis of me saying either it's personal or it's not. And then you went off into this tangent saying, well, I'm trying to give you a more thought out answer. You're trying to, you're not interacting with what I'm saying. You can give a thought out answer, but that doesn't defeat the true dichotomy I laid out to you.
So let's move forward.
You don't want to concede the simple points that don't need to be contended with.
You asked me about.
Either you believe that reality is the result of something personal or not. Period.
Okay. So where are we moving from here?
Okay, so you believe, and it seems to be the case that you believe that is the result of something that's not personal. Are we on the same page?
It's not personal, yes.
Okay. Now, going back to what Alberto was telling you about, he was giving you a line of reason as what's the most likely scenario. The likely scenario is, at least how he laid it out, is going to go to one of those dichotomous lanes, either something personal or not.
Okay.
Okay, when he can finish his reasoning and speak for himself, but I'm not sure if he was necessarily going down that lane, but if I were giving similar reasoning that he was, I'd just say, look, where is the evidence pointing at the most likely? Something personal or not? And he can give his reason as to where he's going with that. I'm just trying to get you to accept the true dichotomy of what's being laid out on the table. And you got to deal with the implications of the reasoning he's giving to you.
I was actually going to lay out some prior probability problem, but if you want to go down to which of the evidences we see, do we see intentionality or do we see disposition?
Well, if the conclusion of your argument, I don't know if you're an atheist or not, but if the conclusion of your argument was one or the other, I feel like whatever argument you give will eventually get to that trail. Either the evidence is going to lead to something personal or not.
Yeah, that would be true.
All right, then I'll let you guys interact from this point.
And hey, I'm gonna dip. I know that these boys got this, but anyway, Tom, thanks for having replays on, and thanks for this one.
All right, thanks for coming, Chrissy. God bless. I want to hear more about the point you're trying to make, Alberto, about this whole the analogy you gave with the murder scene. What's the most likely scenario? Where were you taking that line of thought?
Yeah, I was going to lay out a problem of the priors thing, that in order to come to probability, you're going to have some static background information in order to derive that probability. And if you were to question those, you'd have to have some other background probability to determine those. And basically, you'd end up in an infinite regress of determining prior probabilities. This is called the problem of the priors. And given this issue that Jarek wants to believe things based on, if it's the most likely thing, how does he determine what's most likely, given that he doesn't have any prior probabilities that can be established?
Oh, great question.
How do I determine what's the most probable? Well, I look at the scenario all around, and I look at all the variables that I can see in front of me, and I base it off of that.
Okay. What's the probability that your senses are working correctly in order to determine that we should use your senses to determine other things?
Because a lot of the senses that the probability I'm spacing it off of is the actual physical things around me that I can feel, touch, see at the same time. And depending on the situation we're speaking of.
I'm asking what the probability is.
Okay, I don't understand what
that's going to be a number.
Oh, the number between what number what? I can't give you a number because it depends. Give me a specific situation.
Probability has to be quantifiable on some level.
Okay,
so you got to talk about a number.
That's fine. I'll talk about a number.
I'll give you an example, and then I want you to tell me this. If I flip a coin, and you know that the coin is heads or tails, and it must land heads or tails, what's the probability of it landing on heads?
Perfect. Let's do it.
What is the probability of it landing on heads?
50-50.
Okay, it's 50%. What is the probability that your senses are working accurately?
Depending on the situation.
How do you know? What do you mean it depends on the situation?
Well,
So your-
if
your
somebody,
eyesight
I'll
thing-
explain. You ask me a question, I'm going to answer you.
Sure.
If you're asking me a blind question and I don't know the true answer of it, then the probability is not high. But if you're asking me a question about my field of work, then the probability is quite high.
I'm not asking about what you know. I'm asking about your senses.
Well, my senses are based off the things I know.
Your
So what senses are we talking about? Are we feeling touch, feel?
Yep.
Are we
Yep.
talking about
Yep.
listening? Like what sense are we talking about specifically?
Pick one. Pick one.
Let's go with C.
How likely, when you see something, is it actually there?
Am I looking at give me a scenario.
You're looking. I don't know. You're looking in your house.
100%.
You see an object. 100%.
Yes.
Your eyesight doesn't fail inside your house.
When I'm looking at my blenders or me making juice, no, it does not.
How did you determine that it doesn't fail?
Because then I can go touch it or drink it when I make something out of it.
Okay, so you confirm it with other senses.
100%.
Okay. How do you know that when you confirm it with all the other senses, that you didn't have all your other senses failing at the same time?
Well, because I know what orange juice tastes like, and if I go with my juice
That's a sense.
maker,
You can't appeal to your senses.
well, if I'm not going to appeal to my senses, then nothing exists, does it?
Well, that's not true.
Well, how else would you determine? Please tell me.
Well, you could determine things a priori.
Explain that, please.
The things you can know without your senses.
How can you know something without senses when everything is a sense?
How did you determine that everything is a sense?
See, yeah, you just made a question. You just threw that out there.
The thing is, can you tell me how can somebody know without eyesight, hearing,
Wait a minute.
touching, or feeling?
Okay, so you got that from neuroscience.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Wait. So you got that from neuroscience. Are neuroscientists infallible?
Depending on the situation we're speaking of. If they're studying a subject, yes, it could be fallible. If there's something that they've studied and they have confirmation of, then no.
Jared, have you ever been without your senses before?
Have I ever? Yeah, I have.
Were you conscious?
Yes.
Okay. Did you?
But not all of them at once.
Well, I'm asking all of them.
Well,
the same five senses. Were you
Well,
ever
for
without
example, when I close my eyes, I lose my sight, but I still have my smell and I still have my ears.
I'm asking. Listen, if
And
you
taste?
ever lost every one of them, all at the same time.
No, I have not. I'm still alive.
Well, I agree that you'd still be alive. I
Crazy.
imagine that someone else could also be still alive, minus their senses.
Can you give me a situation where somebody lost all their senses?
Yeah, somebody who's unconscious.
Yeah, someone in a coma. They have no sensory experience.
Okay, so they're in a coma. Great, I agree with it. And then, can they feel anything or see anything?
No,
Because they're in a coma.
needs to be unconscious.
Okay, what's your point?
My point is, well, first of all, we have to establish that you think that a person like that could even exist. You agree that someone like that can exist, right?
Yeah, when they're in a coma, correct.
Okay. Do they have, well, why can't someone be like that and not be in a coma?
Because we're alive, and without our senses, we don't feel anything, which puts us in a coma, or are we dead? That's just how our biology works.
I'm asking, what is it about those things that without them, they would make you dead?
Because
You know
nothing
who Helen
exists
Keller
to you
is?
because you can't feel anything or see
Well, wait a
anything
minute.
or touch.
Yeah, Helen Keller
I'm
couldn't
just so
see or
confused what
hear.
you're trying to ask.
Helen Keller couldn't see or hear, bro.
Or
Yeah, but can he smell and taste?
Yeah.
yeah. I imagine
Oh,
that
crazy.
could have.
And feel, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy how that works. Anyways, go on.
Do you think that we could have cut off like her tongue and she'd still survive?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that we could put her in an odorless room and she would still survive?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've removed those two senses, have we not?
Okay.
Okay. So now we have a person who can't hear, see, talk, smell, taste. And if you want, we can put her in one of those like.
What's your point?
Well, the point is, I'm trying to make it that there's a person who can have no senses and can still be functioning and alive
And how are they functioning?
because their brain works. They can still think, right?
Okay, you can't see, you can't smell, you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't hear. What can you do?
You can think.
What can
Supposedly
you
you can
think
also
of?
move.
What can you think of if you can't feel anything, smell anything, touch anything?
I don't
Because
know.
we just didn't you
I
just
don't know.
determine that that person is
I don't.
unconscious?
Jarek, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know. Okay, so what's the point of what you're trying to say?
Because you're trying to make this strong claim that, first of all, you thought this person would be dead,
Well,
which is just false.
Well, a form of dead, yeah, conscious, unconscious or dead is not much,
What do you
not
think
too
dead
far
is?
off.
You think unconscious means you're dead? Is that the
Do you
same
think
thing?
unconscious is actually because you're alive and your body's working? It doesn't mean that you're actually living in reality because you don't even know what reality is at that moment because you're not even conscious. So what's your point?
So you think that if you are unconscious, you're better off dead.
You're a vegetable,
equal.
yes.
You're the same. Okay, so if someone knocked you out, you'd be okay with somebody like putting you in a burner and incinerating you?
What?
You're saying that if you're unconscious,
Oh my
you're
God, this
equal
is
to being
ridiculous.
dead.
What are you trying to say? Like, if you're trying to trap me, you're not going to do it.
This
You're going to
isn't
have
even
an
a
actually honest
trap.
conversation. But you're trying to. No, you are, because you're going from unconscious to burning you. Somebody knocks you out, are you going to get burned? When somebody knocks me out, no, hold on. When somebody knocks me out, for those minutes I'm knocked out, I'm not in reality. And when I wake up, I just missed 2 minutes, 5 minutes, of whatever time I was knocked out, till I get my senses back, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great, we agree. Move on.
That had nothing to do with what I was trying to say.
So what are you trying to say then? Get to the point.
Well, tell me what you've understood so far.
No, you tell me. I don't even know what you're trying to get at.
Because I don't think you've gotten anything. So tell me.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, and because I answered your question not the way you wanted to.
I'm grasping on quite clearly. I've just been listening.
If you don't know what I've been saying, why haven't you stopped me to ask questions?
I've been asking you questions, and I've asked you for the last 5 minutes, what are you getting at? And you still can't answer me.
What am I getting at does not tell me what you haven't understood so far. That's a different question.
Can anybody tell me what he's trying to get at? Because I'm so confused on these questions. Because you keep on asking about senses. You've been asking for the last 10 minutes. I've been answering these questions.
He's made a few points to you. Like, you were presupposing this idea that in order to be alive and functioning, that you have to have some sort of cognizance or awareness in one or more of your senses or something. And we're clearly giving you examples to where it's not the case. And he's trying to tell you to follow that through. When you make an assertion that sensory experience equates to, or rather, you have to have one or more of your sensory experience, and then you equate that to aliveness, that's just not the case.
What's objective reality?
What does it matter?
You already conceded that there's at least you already conceded there's
avoid everything that
you've already conceded that there's at least one example.
Ridiculous.
Jared, stop. You've already conceded you've already conceded that there's at least one example to where none of your senses are operating, yet you can still be alive. You've already conceded this. I don't understand why you keep being continuously argumentative with things you've conceded to. Where's your problem?
He's just dishonest. Why would you engage with this person?
I'm 100% honest, but see, I love how when I'm making points that doesn't see your narrative, oh, he's dishonest. Why are you talking to him?
I didn't create a narrative. I asked you.
Because you cannot attack me, because you can't trap me into your little trap.
Look,
you're scared and you run away. You're like,
it's not even a trap. Wow.
It is.
You've already conceded.
If it's not a trap, tell me. What is the point talking about senses?
If you've already conceded that,
what is the point of talking about senses?
If you've all stop, Jared, listen.
I'll answer his question for him.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
I already laid out the point. It was called the problem of the priors. And what we did was a dialectic which explains the prior probability problem, which is why I kept asking you, how do you know what the probability of your eyesight works? The probability of all of your senses working. That's what I was doing. So when you ask me, like, what's the point? The point is I'm trying to show you you can't establish the probability, because every time you ask, what's the probability of the thing granting probability in the first place, you're going to have to appeal to something in the background. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I am saying so that we can move forward?
Tell me which sense or that we're speaking of proves that God exists.
What he's saying, okay,
I'm agnostic. I don't even believe in God, Garrett. What does this have to do with God?
What he's saying to you is that there are more background connections that you have to make in order to lay down certain claims like probabilities. That's all he's telling you. You gotta keep.
Because you think I'm a theist. You're not even right.
And I knew this guy wasn't a theist.
I'm not freaking out at all. I'm just trying to, because you keep on asking me these questions, and you keep on going on these questions, and we go for this narrative for 10 minutes, and then you ask me another question, and I don't know where it's coming from. So
I already laid out.
So when you talk about the probability of senses, I told you everything, and then you tell me I'm dishonest.
No, you were dishonest because when I started to say, well, first of all, you tried to insert God into the questions. Which
that's on the very end, so don't bring that up. Go before that.
That's when I called you dishonest.
No, you called me dishonest way before I said God, but go ahead.
So, do you understand the point I've made?
No, actually, I really don't.
Okay. Do you remember what I talked about when I said prior probability issues?
A little bit.
Okay. What does that mean to you?
Explain, because I don't understand.
That's what I've been doing this whole time. And why haven't your questions been about what I've been explaining and trying to understand what I'm saying, rather than like, you feel like I'm trapping you. You feel, I don't have to trap you. This is just a problem. Like, for everyone. It's not a trap because we're all in the fucking trap, you idiot.
What are you talking about? What trap are we in?
The prior probability issue.
Can you explain that?
Look, when you determine a probability, you have to have something in the background to make it have a probability.
Okay.
Like, when you flip a coin, the reason why it's 50-50 is because we know, we're stipulating that the thing that we're doing in the first place only has two sides. Okay? We're stipulating that. That's the part that's in the background.
Got it.
If I ask you, how do we know it has two sides, you're going to go, well, I saw it, right? I looked at it. And then I can ask you, what's the probability that your eyesight is working correctly in order to determine that it has two sides? And you're going to say, well, I checked it with some other thing to determine the probability of my senses, right? Do you understand what I'm saying so far? You follow me right now?
I'm following you, yeah.
And then you're going to appeal to something else. In your case, initially, you appeal to other senses. You're like, oh, I'm going to check it with my hearing or my touching, whatever.
Correct.
We will keep doing this infinitely. We will never arrive to something.
That I don't understand.
Well, let's try it. We can do this forever.
Let's do it.
I mean, okay. How did you determine that your eyesight works? And you can't use your eyesight.
Then it doesn't work.
I'm saying, in order to determine that your eyesight is working, you need to appeal to something to determine the probability of your eyesight.
Okay, but you said my eyesight doesn't work, so...
No, I'm saying
I can't determine that.
When I say it doesn't work, it means, what I meant was, you can't appeal to your eyesight in order to determine the probability of your eyesight.
Okay, how else would you determine it?
I don't know. You're the one saying that you know that your eyesight works, right? What's the probability of that?
It's very high. I know it works because when I'm looking at something and I create something and I show it to somebody else, they can confirm it. So,
if it's very high, how did you determine it was very high?
Yeah, you're using other factors to make the stipulation to get to the probability is very high. Yes.
Okay, but and I get it. So I know what you're saying. I still don't get the point of the conversation. I'm sorry, I really
No.
don't.
That's honestly, man, I don't even know where to go from here.
I really don't either,
you're-
because if you're asking me a question, how do I know when something's really high by looking at it, and how do I know? Like, okay, like I know because I look at it, I see it, I
honestly,
determine
like,
it.
I'm flabbergasted. We started with a thesis I was trying to lay out for you, that you can't determine prior probabilities because we can always call into question background assumptions. Do you understand that?
No, I do understand that. So you're saying that we live in a fucking matrix?
You wouldn't be able to determine that. That's the point. You wouldn't.
Are you alive?
What's the probability of you? What's the probability of me being alive?
I'm asking you. Tell me.
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea. Well, give me a number.
Well, see, when in my epistemology, I make stipulations because in order to have probability, I have to stipulate things.
Correct. Okay. And
Okay.
what are your stipulations based on?
They're not based on anything.
Okay, so how do you determine them?
You don't. That's the point.
This guy's fucked. Okay,
If you were to if you determined them from something else, then those are the things that you're using to, you're presupposing, quote unquote.
Okay.
So, if you start with something in order to determine some other probability, and someone goes, well, how did you determine that? You can't appeal to anything because you have nothing else to go on. That's your starting point.
Okay.
And that starting point has to be 100%.
Okay. So, and then there's nothing 100%, so there's no starting point.
There's no, well, how did you determine that there was nothing that was 100%?
Well, no, you determined that.
I'm saying that-
what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that in order to have probability, you need something that is either a 0 or a 1.
Okay, so how do you know it's a 1?
I'm stipulating.
Okay.
And this is what you asked me. When you ask me, how do I know? You're asking me some previous thing in order to determine that it was that probability, which I've already shown you the issue with that.
Okay.
Do you understand so far? Please tell me we've gone on this for like half.
I understand. I just don't understand. I honestly don't understand the point. It's like
Maybe
we're going
it's
in circles, and then we're talking philosophy. Great, but what's the fucking point of the
the point
conversation?
is, if you're going to call into question someone's bottom beliefs, you are going to have the same thing that you are criticizing them of. You're saying you can't know that, you don't know what that is, and yet
Correct.
if we were to
Listen, I
question
agree
you
with
about
that.
what I was talking, if we were to question you about yours, the same issue would arise.
Question me.
I already have. We went through the dialectic. I'm not going through it again. You either don't understand it.
No, I'm
or
talking
you're-
about okay. So you came in this conversation. We're talking about God, right, and the understanding of God. And you're saying when I can't question about the God, is because it will be the same resolution for me, correct?
Well, it depends. Not every theist holds God at some like foundational level.
Okay,
Some
but
think that they
Tan
arrive.
does.
Right. So when you question Tan about how he starts with his, you're
Correct.
doing something called begging the question. Just like if he were to do the same thing to you, he'd be begging the question against you.
Okay.
And so when we talk about like these foundational or these like axiomatic starting points, if you were to call them into question, you will never be able to arrive at what the probability is because that's not how they work.
Okay. I agree with that.
So why are you questioning them?
Because it's a conversation piece.
Okay, so it's like a fun thing.
It's an interesting thing because of the answers are given me. Because if you ask me if God exists, I would say based on the Christian worldview and based on the way you describe it, I don't think he exists, as there is no background of understanding something that's beyond their comprehension to actually explain what it is. And then if you ask me, do you think God actually exists? For me, I would say, you know what, I really don't know if he exists or not. I really hope he exists, but I have seen nothing or any proof of
That's
anything
exactly
any of
what
my
he was conveying
senses
to you.
to actually
You just
understand
said,
that he
you just
exists.
said
So now,
there's no back. You're talking to the Christian, and you just said there's no background for X. We just gave you the problem of the priors, in which you'd have to make that analysis on prior considerations with other factors. You said there's no background based on other prior factors that you've already presupposed into the question, right?
Is there a chance that God doesn't exist, Ton?
All right, okay. See, I was just making a point straight up to you. You just talk past. No, you just talk past the point. You're not conversing with us. You're barely, if at all, conversing with Albedo, and now you don't want to converse with me when I ask you a simple question.
What? Yes,
Okay, no, you're talking past the problem because he just explained to you the problem of the priors, and then when he explained to you, he broke that down quite precisely, and he said it better than I ever could.
And how did I answer?
Okay, he's saying from his perspective, and he's saying that from where you're coming from, you can't answer it. That's literally what he's telling you. So when you make any says that, well, this person over here doesn't have any background information, but that's going to be based on assumed presuppositions, right? That you have to consider and evaluate, and those presuppositions are going to be stacked with presuppositions on top of those, and it's going to go back into an infinite regress to where you can actually get to a point to where you can even give your inquiry off the ground. He's telling you cannot get your inquiry off the ground.
Okay, so he's telling me and you the same thing.
No, he just told you that there are other theists that don't reason God in the same sort of way that you would reason this issue of probability. There are theists like myself that's going to hold God as a terminus. Maybe some theists out there won't. He made that clear as well too. Were you listening?
I was. It still doesn't beat the actual.
Oh, he's talking. Then why do you say he's talking to me too? Well, you don't know that he was talking to me because I didn't even put forth. Well, I mean, between forth my view, but unless he knows my view, he wasn't talking to me about my view. He was just talking to you about yours. He's not making an inquiry about my view. If my view was such that I don't consider a terminus point for a creator God, then I'd have the same problem. Maybe he can explore a different sort of a problem that he thinks is in my conception of God, but that would be an entirely different conversation. He was focusing, the focal point was him evaluating your position and showing you the problem. When you try to make an inquiry or a criticism about someone's position, you can't do that if the gun backfires at you and you fall to the same problem. That's what he was trying to convey to you.
I understand that part. But me saying that I have seen zero evidence of God is not nothing backfiring me at. And when your answer to your answer to me is the Bible, that's not really an answer.
Okay, again, the only way you can say that that's not an answer is based on previous considerations and presuppositions in which you've ruled out that that's a logical answer. It's not an answer in terms of what? That's not a problem if you consider the Christian perspective. It's a very logical answer, and it's a consistent internal view, given my position. Now, if you want to throw externals into it and say, well, that's not an answer based on my external evaluation, I'm going to put into my interlocutor's view, then you're just not still manning me. And you're not even conversing with me at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I see where this is going.
If you're going to still man someone, try to find the absurdity within the view. Don't throw your external assertions within it.
Okay. sure, Tom. Honestly, we've gone so deep into so many different things. You still can't answer the questions I've asked you, and you still go back to the Bible. So
See, you're making the assertion again. I can't answer the question in terms of what your external assertions that you're not still man in my view with, or I can't answer the question given the consistency of my view. If you say that there's some sort of internal problem with my view, then let's explore that possibility. But
I
you
did.
haven't.
You're not allowing me to.
What was the internal critique or the internal problem?
That the Bible is written by humans, and there's no proof that anything in the Bible is actually real based on the God of existence.
The Christian perspective is that God is the precondition of proof.
Oh my God.
When you say there's no proof, once again, you are not stillmanning me at all. You don't want to stillman me, do you?
I don't care. There's still no proof.
Okay. Wow. You know what? It's ridiculous talking to you.
It is.
I agree without Bill. He's not even a Christian, and he was having the same problem with you. You need to be truly introspective about yourself and think about why there are more than one type of person, a Christian and a non-Christian, having the same issue with you.
Did you read the messages about you?
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of messages about me, and a lot of crazy, and a lot of stuff people say. No, that doesn't mean anything.
Come on.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything within the scope of this conversation.
It means everything.
That doesn't mean anything within the scope
Because you
of this
just compared
conversation
me
at
to
all.
something, but yet you're not willing to take the same stance for yourself.
What are you going on about?
Tom, I can deal with this guy.
Oh, fuck, Gavin.
That should be fine. Shalom, brother Gavin. How are you, man?
I'm good, brother. Thank you. So, Jared, you claim that you've seen no evidence that would convince you of God, correct?
Correct.
So you'd be quite familiar with things like quantum mechanics and the holographic principle, right?
Well, I'm not 100%. I know that they exist. I'm not too familiar with them.
Well, if you looked at them and decided, no, that's not good evidence for God, you'll be familiar enough with them. So, when physicists talk about the holographic principle, you're going to have to be quiet for a couple of minutes. They talk about the universe as a hologram, but they talk about it analogously, right? That it emerges from underlying information processing. So much of the evidence is pointing to the idea that the universe is emergent. Now, even the atheist physicist Sean Carroll states, space is obviously fundamentally. Oh, sorry. Sean Carroll says space is obviously not fundamental. Space-time is something that you go from classical mechanics to quantum mechanics. Space-time more or less just disappears. So space-time, which is our universe, we call it space-time as well, it's emergent from underlying information processing. Now, as a theist, as a Christian, like Tom, this just strengthens the contingency argument, the cosmological arguments, and the precept arguments. So if the entire space-time is emergent itself, and this has been demonstrated by physicists, it's got to be emergent from something more fundamental than what we see, what we experience. And what many apologists and philosophers are positing is that what space-time is emergent from would be a mind, because the underlying fundamental bedrock level that the universe emerges from could not be material. It could not be anything physical.
Can you send me an article where it's talking about the
I haven't finished yet. You need to be quiet. I haven't finished yet. You need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. So, the universe must emerge from something immaterial. It can't be material. It would have to be immaterial, like I said. It would also have to be spaceless, and it would have to be timeless. Because space-time is not fundamental to the universe. But you know this, don't you? Because you've studied this, right?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I don't know
So that just shows your dishonesty. So the most likely explanation would be the same thing
dishonest because I
you
said I
get
haven't
from
studied
other
that.
cosmological arguments. And that would be an immaterial and necessary mind at the fundamental level of the universe. You said you haven't seen or know of any convincing evidence of a God. And I've just given you evidence that physicists, even secular physicists, lean towards. That's you being totally dishonest. And guess what, Jarek? This is not the Jarek show. I didn't tune in here to listen to you.
You're a
nonsense.
comedian now. Let me guess, you're going to kick me off.
Yeah, because you don't have anything worthwhile to say. Can I get rid of him, Tom, or just put him down?
There you go. No, hold on, let me answer. You have provided nothing that proves God. You provided that there's unknown. As humans, we don't know, but there's still no evidence of God. That's your idea that you're proposing.
I'll put it up with you, Jarek. As much as I think you've been kind of, in a certain sense, not charitable in this conversation, I do respect the fact that you do have the guts to come up here. Now, from this point on, he's willing to moderate. If he decides to get rid of you, then I'm not going to step in his way.
Because Gavin's scared to have an actual honest conversation with me. He only talks shit in these Christian rooms. When he goes to an atheist room, he sits like a quiet mouse.
It's impossible to have an honest conversation with you because you are a dishonest interlocutor.
Do you realize you asked me if I studied this? I said no, and you said I'm dishonest.
You didn't say no. I said you'd be quite familiar with the holographic principle and quantum mechanics. And your reply was,
you said because
somewhat. Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with it. All right.
I said no. You said to me, you know, you read.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I said no.
I've given you an argument. I've given you an argument that really strengthens the contingency argument and the cosmological argument. Yes, I have. And any physicist would agree with me. Even an atheist physicist like Sean Carroll.
Can you send me a paper when it states that universe is made up from mind, please? From physicist paper?
No, I'm not doing your homework.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't exist. Oh.
How about you put some effort in? How about you put some effort in and do your own research?
I don't even think that's the point.
Do your own research.
I just think he's just saying the implications of what even atheists like Sean Carroll are saying is that the evidence is pointing to a mind. He's not saying the atheists are claiming that there's a mind. He's saying the implications of what they're saying is pointing in that direction. That's the point, man.
You understand, Jarek?
Oh, I understand. Yes.
Nobody's finding your dishonesty that funny.
Oh, dishonesty, Gavin. I'm glad you know one word is dishonest. Can you define it?
Yeah, it rhymes with Jarek.
Wow, you must pass in kindergarten. Congratulations, Gavin.
So, do you have some pushback or anything?
I'm asking you a simple question. Can you send me a paper where it's
No, you can find this information out quite easily by yourself. I'm not doing
the thing, Matt. That wasn't his point. His point wasn't Sean Carroll saying that there's a mind. That wasn't his point. I even called him Sean Carroll. I'm not even sure why you're asking for such a paper when he wasn't making that statement at all.
So what was he saying then?
He's giving you a lot of reasoning that's giving you lines to think about, that's suggesting the powerful connection between what we see in the universe and how it's going to necessitate a mind given its intricate design. He's giving you like a design sort of an argument, okay? He's breaking this down to saying that the implications there is pointing to a creator. He's just making a cumulative case, if you will.
It's only a creator to a human mind because we understand what creation is. It doesn't mean that there's a creator that created it and an individual entity that created it.
Yeah,
because we don't know what created
is
it.
obviously not fundamental. Space-time is obviously not fundamental. Do you know what that means?
No, explain to me.
No, you don't know what that means, do you? Because you really haven't looked at the evidence for God.
I just
say these things.
I asked you to explain it to me.
You say these things and make these claims, and then you like the whole show to revolve around you.
Oh, I'm asking you that question. Can you explain?
When I say, along with other physicists, that space-time is not fundamental, what that means is that space and time disappears once we move from the realm of classical mechanics to the subatomic world of quantum mechanics. But you will know what I'm saying. You understand what I'm talking about, right?
No, I don't. Does that make me dishonest?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, it's because you're saying something I don't know.
No, you are dishonest, Jarek. You're so dishonest. And like I said, this is not the Jarek show. So just to conclude, folks, what I was giving Jarek was a well-known argument from physicists who, across the board, realise now that once they move from the world of classical mechanics and they move into the subatomic world of quantum mechanics, space and time just almost magically disappears. There's no such thing as space and time in the quantum mechanical world. A simple example is like this. If you take two quantum particles that share the same quantum state, but you separate them by huge distances, like they did a study in Japan once where they took two quantum particles, separated them by a couple of 100 miles, and as soon as they made one change to one particle, instantaneously the same change happened to the other particle. So theoretically, you could put one particle at one end of the universe and the other particle at the other end of the universe, and the same thing would happen. A change instantly happens to one particle when you make that change. So the space and the time and the gap and the speed of light is all abolished. It's all abolished once you get down to that level. Now, this is something that Jarek, if he was serious about studying about God, or if there was a God, he would know this. This kind of stuff would just roll off his tongue. But he's dishonest, and he doesn't know this kind of stuff. I'll yield there.
You want to bring him back up to see if he has a response? It's up to you, man.
What's the consensus in the room?
I don't really care one way or the other, honestly.
All right, I'll bring him up.
What's up, Galvin? You miss me? Are you saying that in order to know God, you need to know quantum physics?
I'm interested in one thing though, because you mentioned this stuff about people like me believing in God. Then you said, "Well, I'm pointing to science." Are you doing the common atheist amateur talking point that when people discuss these conversations, either they're going to reason this off either faith or science, or if they're reasoning science, that it seems to be directly or indirectly to the exclusion of religion or something like that. Because you say, well, I'm looking at science. Like, okay, fine. Like, how does that exclude religion or exclude faith or worldviews? It doesn't. Yeah, you did. You did mention science earlier.
Well, part of it, but I never understand. It wasn't the point.
Okay, so why would you appeal to science? For what reason?
I'm not sure what the conversation was, but it was. I'm not the one that points to science to prove that I don't know if God exists.
Okay, but it seems like you're trying to make this connection to suggest that I'm sort of just believing things when I'm told there's something, and then you base your analysis off science or something like that, as if
No. I'll tell you about. I'm not a philosopher. I don't do philosophy. I don't understand philosophy. I'm speaking from my day-to-day life, from my personal understanding and my life experiences.
so. Whenever you invoke science, then you're not using that to exclude God.
I
That's what
just
you're
don't
saying,
know
right?
when I included science. I think you're confusing me with someone else. I never include science.
I'm pretty sure that's something you brought up like an hour and a half ago. We have to listen to this recording back. I'm pretty sure that came out of your mouth.
Listen, it might have in a sense, but I would never say like, "Oh, God doesn't exist. Look at science." In that aspect, I'd never do that. So I'm not sure what the conversation was. Potentially, I could have mentioned it in some way or another, but not in the way you're saying. But I have a question for Gavin. Are you telling me in order to believe in God, you need to know quantum physics?
I don't think that that's true. I don't know what Gavin thinks.
Well, Gavin said that I'm dishonest because I don't understand the universe and what physicists say. So I don't understand God because I don't study that.
You're dishonest because you say you don't understand God?
I'm dishonest because I don't understand quantum physics.
That doesn't make you dishonest. Not understanding quantum physics doesn't make you dishonest. Saying that you don't understand God could make you dishonest because, like, come on. We all kind of know what people are referring to when they say God. Like, we have a rough idea. You could, like, say that, like, that version is wrong or something. But, like, especially in a monotheistic context, there's a sort of agreed upon understanding as to what God means.
Yeah, and I agree with you about that 100%.
So if you were to say, I just don't know, then yeah, that could be a little disingenuous. Like, no, you know what the theory is. You either like it or don't. And you can say, like, I don't like that theory. That's fair.
So Gavin, can you tell me what I'm dishonest about?
Everything, George.
Well, that's a great answer. Wow. A+, whoever said that.
I'm just kidding.
Hold on, I'm gonna start giving gold stars soon. So Gavin, can you answer, or are you just like done?
He's probably not even at his computer.
I just don't understand why he says things and just runs and can't explain things and just goes, "You're dishonest" without explaining it. It just
Eric, it's Gavin. Like, chill, dude.
Oh no, I'm chill, but I just don't understand why actually like me and Tom has a conversation about allowing Christians like that to actually have a conversations in the room and represent them. I'm curious about that, Tom.
What's not going to happen here is we're not going to go into. All right, you already understand what my position on this issue is. And
100%.
I tried to extend you the fairness to have your point spoken without being interrupted. And I was talking to another Christian when I said this, so I've been very consistent about what I meant when I said I'm not going to have